All right, Twitch is up and running. YouTube, not yet. All right, YouTube is getting a signal. We've got Restream chat going. And I think we're in. All right, so today I don't have a huge amount of time, and already this particular feature has gone on way too long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap up the functionality into the function completely, and then reuse that function in the in the places where the lines get drawn, right? And originally I had the idea of deciding to spit out the actual point of the lines that is coming out, i.e. these points, right? So, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So the decision is going to be made inside. And my brain. So direction decides proc CE. So here we go. So if direction is, so line type is this decision. And direction is this decision. So we have 4 cases, right? So one case is which way around the 2 points get taken. So let me see. AB. Oh, because yeah, those are the center points, right? So the center point, which center point we use is decided by this. Okay. So let's do this. Let ARC equals start RC, BRC equals put RC, AB, right? And then if direction is less than 0.5, because we have 4 cases. BA, so it's always B and A. Ah, yeah, so this decides B and A. So if... No, wait a second. Direction decides direction. So let's just do this for a sec. And direction greater than 0.5 vertical, right? And center line is always this. So center line is always using mid A. Wait a second. Ah, no. These are transformed, right? So we calculate mid RC. Okay. I'm gonna have to split this in two, so I can look at these two things at the same time. Otherwise, I'm gonna be much confused. Hey, Mark! No worries. I have a dinner tonight, so I don't know how long I'm gonna be streaming. It's already 4:45, and I think the dinner's at 6, so maybe just an hour or so. I just wanna see if I can at least try my algorithm inside the main functions and see if that's enough. So the point is we have the get center edge line, but instead of just outputting this stuff, I'm actually going to output the 2 points that make up the line. So I make the decisions in here. And then I want to reuse that function in the add center line and add edge line parts, and then see if those simplify down. All right. So we have a direction and we have the progress thing. And the progress thing is CE. So let's bring this in here. So this is prog. Okay. And then the direction is the horizontality into verticality. And then the actual stuff happens here. So the midpoint should be ARC, BRC, the middle between these two. All right. And we're only going to take it into consideration until minimum distance, because at that point we make the decision, and then everything after that is already will become the next line then. Somehow. Okay. So then what did I calculate here? So mid RC is the midpoint. And now we're creating the 2 center points based on this. So in other words, the 2 closest edge centers. Right. So that's the 2 closest edges to our midpoint. And now we have to decide which one we're going to use, right? And if we're horizontal, for example, then, so this is the edge line, center line. So if direction is, if our direction is horizontal, then edge is mid B and center is mid A. And if it's vertical, the edge line is, the edge line is always mid B and the center line is always mid A. Except no, it isn't. No, it is. Except now they're vertical, right? But the colors were switched, right? Okay, so before I'm doing this then, let's go here. Right, before I'm doing this, let's make sure this still works after I dumped all this rubbish in here. And I think we're gonna want to label our lines more carefully. All right, so they all still exist. So let's first of all make sure the colors are always the same, always the right ones, right? So let's call let edge color equals this, and center color equals the other one. right? So right now it's these, and one of these needs to get swapped. All right, so let's see. Edge color is yellow. So it's correct for vertical. So this is correct. So this needs to be swapped. Is that correct now for both? So blue should always be the center line. Blue is always the center line. All right. So center color is correct. So that's C line and that's E line. Let's do the E line first. So edge. Let's write them out. Just so I don't confuse myself. And the adds here are the same. It's just the midpoints that get swapped. All right. Okay. So if we're back here, from these, I shouldn't need this, right? So we should be able to say console.log direction. Let's direction equals direction, if it's then horizontal or horizontal, else vert, right? And let type str equals, and that's basically this thing. Line type. Argument list bracket. No commas. So deer's not defined. Yeah, let's shorten that. So line type center, direction horizontal. Line type edge vertical, center vertical, center horizontal, edge horizontal. Okay. So these if statements will serve me. And probably what we want to do is we want to map these to the direction and string values, right? So line. So we have a direction, we have a type string. We basically want to do a 4x4 bit matrix, right? And they're basically based on if these values are smaller than 0.5. All right. All right. So false, true, true, false, true, true, false, true, and false, false. So let's do a little bit matrix here. So we have vert edge line. That's false, true. Ports edge is true, false. Ports center is true, true, and vert center is false, false. Okay. So if they're the same, it's horizontal. No, it's center. If they're different, it's edge. Oops. And okay. All right. And now we calculate these, right? So if we're all right, so we can just do that. So we can say let A equals, what did I output here? Yeah, so that's A. B is this, right? And and actually I'm going to output that separately. So direction now should be, so if they're the same. Hey, Sophie. Yeah, I'm trying to stream once in the morning, once in the evening, but when I stream in the morning kind of depends on if there's other stuff I need to take care of. I'd like to introduce like a couple of scheduled streams, like maybe once a week or twice a week. It's exact dates and such, especially to help people who have different time schedules and stuff. And then, you know, I can schedule them in advance and stuff. So you have, let's say, a Wednesday stream you can join in. But so far, you know, I didn't have enough viewers to make that worthwhile. In the moment, I'm just trying to get some work done. And sometimes it takes me a while to get into a stream. But having a scheduled stream would actually help me as well. So yeah, if that's something. What time zone are you in? So, you know, I can maybe collect a few. I did a spreadsheet once of time zones. So I know when it would make sense for people. So it's vertical based on A. So if it's A, then it's vert, else it's hordes. And type is if they're equal. So if A is equal B, then the type is center, else it's edge. So I do this, we have vertical center. Nope, that's wrong. If A, the opposite. If A is false. Yeah. That should be here. All right. Well, if there's interest, do you prefer mornings or evenings? Because personally, I'd like to have at least one slot that is regular, and then I can fill in the others as required. Liverpool. Well, I'm only 1 hour off, so it's not too nasty. All right. So horizontal center, horizontal edge. Vertical edge, vertical center. Okay, so this stuff, this kind of works. So we don't need that, and we don't need that. We can keep that as a reference for just a moment. So now we want to basically output the direction, we want to output the type of line, and we want to calculate the points, and then just spit it all out as a nice, neat package. So let's I don't know, ear bias and EC bias, and we can do direction bias, EC bias, And then we can let direction is equal to this. And type equals to that. Slash type. Right. I'm based in Malta at Central European Time. Evening. Yeah, it's, to be honest, late evening I don't like to do it. I'd like to be finished before the family comes home. But I struggle to get started earlier in the afternoon. Ideally, I'd like to start at like 2 and stream till maybe 6. But lately, like, you know, it's almost been 5 now before I got started. But yeah, maybe 4 to 6 would be a good slot to have as a fixed slot. And then I can always start a bit earlier. Or do something in the morning or whatever. Alright. So now if dir... 1 second. So which center point we're using depends on which of these two we're using, right? So we don't actually need to calculate both. So we can just say let center RC equals, and then we can just say direction equals Horts. Vertical. Horizontal. Alright, if direction is horizontal, then we're using... and then, okay, wait. We gotta do both. If direction, when do we use mid? Well, 1 second. We're using mid A for vertical and edge, or horizontal and center. So if direction equals horizontal, and for all other cases we use mid A. We usually have 4 cases, right? I'm just going to write it out. If direction equals horizontal and type equals center, do these two first, then center RC. So this is horizontal, center, it'll be mid A, it'll be this. And wait a second, they're all the same except for these two factors. I want to simplify it, but I shouldn't. I should just repeat it as many times as required. Because I could put these two things in variables and then swap the variables out. Especially since afterwards we gotta add some stuff to it anyways. Yeah, let's just do this. Let's just write it out for now. Even though that formula is gonna get reused. Or we just, yeah, we're just gonna calculate it like that. So if we're horizontal and center, then that's mid A. Mid A. Hey Ben. Well, I only just started, so you won't have very far to go. If direction is horizontal and type equals edge, then it's mid B. Then if it's vertical and vertical and edge. So, or it's vertical and edge. No, and edge, yeah. Then that. And else it's that. So we can just do this. Right? And then we need to add the same to the front and the back. No, depending on if we're... Okay. So let out a RC out. Let res equals, let's just do it this way. So the first point will be offset RC equals, we'll just have two types, right? It's this. Well, actually here, now this is only determined by the direction. All right, so if direction is horizontal, it's this, else it's this, right? So that is RC add, center RC, offset RC, and if I do it this way, we can do that. We can do this. RC dot mul scalar -1 or sub. I guess same thing. If I have RC sub, I'm not sure I do. Find sub equals sub. Yeah, we do have a sub. All right. So that's our AB. We can just return this at this point. So now we have 2 points, and then afterwards we want to output the direction, the type, and then we're going to output the raw values as well, just in case we want to do some debugging or something. And this will not, well, I can output direction first, or let's, as it is called now, the direction bias. And then the delta RC. And then we're outputting lang as well for the same reason, in case we want to do some stuff. Okay, so now this should do the work of this down here. All right. So this should now be RC1, RC2, direction type, yada, yada, yada. And it'll blow up because I'm changing the variable names here. I just want to see if this is all reasonable. Mid RC has already been declared. Mid RC. Okay. Oh, and these, we already have these as well. Because I'm using them. Okay. All right. All right. No worries. Okay. All right. C is not defined. Yada yada yada. Okay. So now this should give us the 2 points of the line, horizontal center, yeah. Now what it doesn't give us is it doesn't give us all of the points, obviously. which is what we were using for the debugging. So now the question is, can I hide all of this without everything blowing up in my face? So this stuff, okay, it uses len, but then going down from here to here, all right, so we have horizontal center, vertical edge, vertical edge, vertical center, horizontal center, horizontal edge, horizontal center. All right. And then here we'll do, if this line is undefined, this line type equals center edge. So type, or let's call it line type to avoid weird naming collisions. Equals line type. Okay. Now, I have a feeling that those other functions have become somewhat superfluous. So for example, if we're adding a center line, and I looked at this a bit yesterday, and there's a lot of repeated code, including the clipping and a lot of other stuff. So for example, this part, it's not exactly the same. Except now, one thing I need to know is, are those lines always pointing in the same direction? So, we were drawing these dots here. Where did we draw the dots? This dot. Dot. Oh, I guess we're not drawing the dots anymore. Well, let's try it. Let's get rid of this for a second. Dot A. And that should be RC1 times 2. Stroke width, whatever. And I don't know, F00A. Just to have a marker, and then on, so red at the front, and then B would be whatever, blue, red, green, blue, blue. Like that. So now I'm expecting two dots, where the red one is always where I start from. Okay. If len equals 0, return. Well, len is not 0. Dir type, dir bias, delta RC len. Uh-huh. Wait, what do I call those? Two arguments, the biases. delta RC. No, why am I passing delta RC through? DC bias. All right. All right, this is completely wrong though, unfortunately. Well, let's bring all this back and hope it still works. Okay. That's already been cleared. Hey. CE is not defined. Yeah, okay. CE now would be CE bias. Rename things a million times. All right, and direction is GR bias. Oh, I thought this was going to be a quick cleanup. Come on. Okay, so the closer I go, the less certain it becomes because the line we're actually drawing is becoming shorter. So I should really, I'd like to draw that line as well, but we'll do that in a second. Okay. But right now I'm not getting these dots. So let's do this. F A00 F. So we make this a thin red line, and we call this bug line, so it doesn't get overwritten by the other ones. Okay, so that's the line we're actually drawing. Yeah, so when the line is very short, it'll be inaccurate. At that point, we don't want to show it yet, right? So I go from here to here, that works. I go from here to here, that works. I go from here to here. Now the dots are not rendering. Debug line RC1, RC1. Stroke, oh, I did not put a hash here. Okay, maybe that was it. So red is the first. So if I go from here to here, it is not. Okay, so it has no concept of directionality. That's a bit of a pain in the ass. And obviously it can't, because I threw that out. Because I reduced everything to a single point and then just plus minus it by one element. So the only thing we can do is we can check our input and then swap the dots points. Well, so the easiest would be to say, first of all, get rid of the spam, and then we'll say if, or console.log dir. Yeah, but instead of doing a distance calculation, I can just, if it's horizontal, I can just use the column coordinates, right? So if direction is horizontal, if direction is horizontal, then the output will be the ARC dot apps ARC horizontal is columns minus a brc dot column, and else it's the rows. right? So if we go from left to right, direction is positive. If we're going from right to left, it would be negative if I wouldn't take the bloody absolute value like an idiot. All right. So if we go from right to left, it's 1. If we go from left to right, it's negative. If we go from top to bottom, it's negative. If we go bottom to top, it's positive. I want the opposite, so I'm gonna swap these. A, B, B. All right. And we'll let order equals greater than 0. I'm just gonna bracket the whole thing a couple of places just to make sure. Right? So left to right, true. Top to bottom, true. Right to left, false. Bottom to top, false. And that should work here as well on the edge lines. Left to right, top to bottom, true. Okay. And then if order is false, because red is, let's see, red is my A dot. So red is my starting dot. So it's correct when order is true. So if not order, then rc.mul vector, then we'll just reverse the offset rc. We'll just multiply it by -1. Do we have to assign that? Mul scalar. Yes, we do. Mul scalar. And now the red should always be at the beginning. So from left to right, from bottom to nope. Mul scalar. So up, right, down, left, up, right, down, left. Okay. Put that there. I wonder if there's something simpler. Horizontal center. So this one, vertical edge, and this one. Oh, wait a second. Isn't that only dependent on B? If B is true. So if the direction is horizontal and center, we're here, B is true. If the direction is vertical and edge, B is true. If B is false, we don't do this. So this becomes if B. So if B mid A, else mid B. And then offset RC. And then if we can do this, order 1, -1, right? Same thing, I think. Red, 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 blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. All right, so far so good. I thought we could, I was sure we could simplify things quite a bit. We can probably get rid of a bunch of this stuff up here as well. Like this looks super redundant. But so far so good. So now the question is, can I fold these two functions into one? Or should I follow my original plan, call this function again, get these values out, and then order the thing according to that? So let's see what these functions actually do, right? So step one, and let's write these out. Step one, set initial path point. So if we don't have any points yet, it establishes the starting point according to the starting position. Now at this point, we already know which kind of line we are. So, you know, it only so it only switches. Well, it gets the point according to this. So this would literally be RC1 in our new algorithm. So that's sorted, right? Then these lines are the same all the way to here. So then we go all the way to clipping. And now clipping is slightly different for edge lines and center lines, because edge lines clip slightly, because we can have edge lines now on the upper and left edges. Red is the first point. So we're always drawing from red to blue. I just want to make sure they're always ordered. That's weird. How can I get red? It's because I don't know where I started from, right? I need to do another placeholder line. So if we do a white line, for example, and it goes from ARC to B, from ARC to BRC. Draw a line. Let's give it a different name. This is probably my reminder to get ready for the dinner tonight. Yeah, white is a terrible color. Let's just make it green. Although green would clash with the other one. Yeah, so because we're going from right to left, but the point is we wouldn't try to draw a line until we had drawn more than half of the length of the line. So these indicators aren't really representative for short lines. So we wait until we, let's say, go this far. And in this case, it would draw this line. And in this case, it would draw the center line. Okay. And then once that first line is drawn, then we're locked in. And if that's not correct, then you have to basically stop drawing and then start drawing again. Here were the dots, okay. So, 6:25. All right, so I need to finish the stream in about half an hour. Okay, let's see if we can do this in half an hour. It might be a bit of a push. So, I want the first point to only be established once we've reached past our minimum length, right? Now here, I establish the first path right away, and then it waits until, and that's why you get it. It's confusing a little bit, because if you release the finger from the, sorry, if you don't release and you try to correct by going back with the line being invisible, it's already locked in, and it's not really telling you that. So I think it should be able to kind of sort of unlock itself. But right now I'm just gonna ignore that, actually. So we're gonna start from after we can get rid of this. So this is where we're handling reset, right? We're going to do if current path is undefined. So we'll set up the first point. And you're just going to put RC1 in it. No, actually, because we're clearing it here. So we need to establish, do we want to draw a line at this point? Because reset should be happening all over the place there right now. So it'll, as long as the line is short, it's, yeah, exactly, length is less than 0.5. So shouldn't it be resetting it every frame? Ah, because line type hasn't been set yet, okay. So if line type is undefined, this dot line type equals line type. All right, if path is undefined, yeah, I think I can do with those away with those 2 pages of functions. Yeah, so it's resetting until we go there, and then once we go shorter, it starts resetting again. Okay. Then previous RC, vertical, horizontal, next RC. So that's basically telling me where the RC2 point is going to be. Except vertical, horizontal, add. Yeah, so that one, that split would have to be, the clipping would have to be done per line type. So let's ignore clipping for now. So previous distance is, so here I said, okay, closer or further from the next point. Now, yeah, exactly. So yeah, the red dot is where we're starting from, right? So now what I did previously, and this might be more universal because it will allow for diagonal lines, but basically I said, hey, if the distance from the previous dot is greater than the distance from the next dot, then we're close towards the dot, you know. So now this is really the equivalent of length being greater than 0.5 if length maxes out at 1. Now for diagonal lines, we'll have to adjust that a bit, but basically both of these do that as the next step, right? They don't do anything until we reach that threshold. So if len is greater than 0.5, so that's also universal between the 2 line types. Then it checks if we have to delete a line, and then eventually it calls add to path. So then we can do add to path, this dot current path, RC2. And then I think we're going to rename RC2 to whatever, right? Oh yeah, and then we're not actually drawing the path yet, right? So that's going to be the draw line hint. So that's this without the actions and without clipping. Okay. I'm also wondering, I think we're checking if the point is already on the path or not. Seg RCs, that's all for that stuff. Is there a return? Okay, that's just that. Okay. Draw line hint. So draw line hint currently fails. Why? Erase mode is not equals to undefined. Okay, so it only draws once erase mode is set. So this dot erase mode equals false because it needs to know to draw green or red line. Okay. So now we have a green line there. Oh, Interesting. Yeah. So that's the other thing, right? So we then eventually lock into a line type. Now the problem is our function here doesn't actually care about that. So it will always return the most likely line. It won't let us lock the line type. So we might have to pass in a line type, so it gives us always that line type, right? Rather than whichever one it deems to be the best. The problem is the AB thing that I did earlier for order. Is that gonna work? Because that doesn't care about horizontal or vertical. So we might have to, instead of just using B, and let's just do this here. Instead of using B, we need to actually use the direction. So if forced dir is not equal to undefined, dir equals forced dir. So then we can, let's say, pass in always horizontal. No, not forced direction, forced type. So let's say we pass in edge. So I wanted to basically ignore the other type. So if forced type is not equal to undefined, then type equals forced type. Well, let's rename this to line type, line type. I don't like having a raw keyword sitting around in my code. Now that also means anything else that's currently not dependent on just purely direction and type, i.e. is looking at A and B directly, needs to be changed. Okay. And that's basically this one, right? So this is these two cases. So that's equal to dir equals vertical and line type equals edge, or horizontal and line type equals center. Now if I just made these ones and zeros or whatever, I could probably, you know, like make direction always horizontal and then make it true or false. And in fact, false, true. So if we change this, okay, so let's see, dir true equals horizontal, false equals vertical. So if we do this, then this becomes direction, not this. Then we just say if dir. So if not dir or dir and, if dir, right? I think so far that's all still, that should all still work. Get rid of the unexpected things. Here, A is not defined, so I removed it. Where we're using A. A equals B. Dir equals B, alright. Alright, that looks fine. And now we do the same thing with with B, except B does not correspond to line type. So line type becomes this. If I'm just gonna put this here. And we'll do the same thing for this one. So line type is direction equals. So if these are the same, then we're center. Center, false vertical, false edge. Okay. So this would be true and this would be false. Yeah. So now we're back to if they're equal. If they're both false, vertical center, or if they're both true, horizontal center. No, that doesn't make sense. We established this before to be B. If B is true. So vertical and edge. So vertical is false and edge is also false. Yeah, no, okay, because we're doing this here. And then if they're both true, it's horizontal center, and then that's when B is true as well. Or vertical edge. Yeah, okay. So basically this becomes these two matching. Like that. And that's exactly the simplification I was hoping for. Yay. Just gotta be careful that I don't blow my head up. Legacy. Yeah. Because, you know, I want to exercise my brain sometimes, so it doesn't get rusty, you know? Is horizontal, and then line type should be is center line. All right. That's what happens when you program on your own for too long. And then is horizontal. And I'm using deer here, down here somewhere. Direction is if is horizontal. Okay, direction I don't think is used anywhere else. Let's see if that blows up. My phone just lit up. It makes me nervous. Why would you just light up like that? No notifications, nothing. Spooky. Oh, where did that come from? Go away. All right, so yeah, deer is not defined. I just removed it. Where are we using it? 318. 318 is center line, is horizontal. There we go. Line 370. All right. Ew. Line type not defined. Yeah, I just removed all that. That's why I wasn't doing it, so I didn't have to do all this. All right. So is center line. So line type becomes is center line, center edge. Okay, remove this. And okay. All right. Oh man, I hate in-place refactoring like this. It's quite annoying. Okay, we need to simplify this further. Yeah, so basically I wanted to see if we can pass in a forced forced is center line. Makes me feel like a Java programmer. All right. Let's just pass in a true and see what happens. Look at that. Does work. It's always giving me center lines now. Okay. And if I pass in false, here. Now, edge line, edge line, edge line, edge line, edge line, edge line. Okay, sweet. So that does work. Okay. Whew. So then we can just pass in this dot line type. Did I just? This dot line type equals center. All right. So it should not initially. Get forced to being a center line. Because it should be undefined initially. Ah, wait, no. This dot line type. But you. Where's the center line? This line type. If is line type equals center. If this dot line type and if this dot line type, okay, is not equal undefined, then this is equal to this line type center, and then we can just pass this in. That should work. There you go. Jesus, I gotta get rid of that. Control F2. Well, it kind of already does that. Control F2. Doesn't seem to do it. All right. So, undefined is not defined. What? What do you mean undefined is not defined? Ah, JavaScript. Jesus. All right. Yeah. Okay, so now the problem is that after we've placed the first point, we need to continue from the next point, right? Which means... Yeah, so previously we weren't doing it in here, right? So when we were doing it in here, we were only looking at the current point, and we were basically tracing backwards from that point. So what I would like to do now is I would like to trace forward from the last point. So in other words, if our current path isn't reset, the problem is we're calculating this before the reset happens. So it means we should calculate the length first to decide on the reset before we even get started. So we should do this. So start RC, drag start position. So let's call it ABLen, right? And then we can do all of this. If ABLen is 0, well, actually no, because we'll need something else here. If ABLen, I have to be careful though, because we can get a new... Yeah, we only want to do it if the line type is undefined, because we don't want to, if I circle back, if I make a loop and I happen to go exactly on the point where we started from, I don't want it to just suddenly reset, right? Path.length is less than or equal to 1. That should sort that out, I think. So if this and AB length is less than 0.5, we want to reset. Right. Now that we're reset, potentially, we want to check if there's a point in the path in case we didn't reset. So if this.currentPath.length is greater than 0, then ARC equals path length minus 1. I missed functions like tail from other languages sometimes. So that should now let us draw, if len is 0, return here. We don't reset again. Yeah, sort of. If this dot current path and all right, so now we have a line. Now we have another line. Okay. Now we can undo the lines. We can reset. So that means we should be able to now get into a center line situation. Maybe not from that point. Yeah, so if I start here and I draw to the left, I'll draw center lines, right? If I go back and I start drawing here, now I'm drawing edge lines, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So if you're here, you start on a mobile phone, for example, and you start scribbling, oh, that's not what I meant. You can go back and then go up and potentially draw center lines. That's a problem though, because yeah, the direction is up, but we really didn't start near the red point. Yeah, so from here, we just can't draw an edge line to the right. We have to start closer to the thing. Yeah. You have a less than equal to 0. Is this correct? It might both match 1. Less than or equal to 0. Yeah, because if the path length is 0, we want to reset everything anyways. All right, so what it doesn't do now, it doesn't handle clipping, it doesn't generate actions, obviously, and it doesn't generate erase mode yet. But I think the basic path generation we have, so for erase mode, yeah, for erase mode we're checking the cell contents, right? So that's where it gets a little bit more specific. Yeah, except doesn't array.slice return an array with one element? So if I do 1, 2, 3 dot slice -1, I mean, you could do this, you know, but then I feel like I'm doing two function calls, and my low-level optimizing brain won't let me do that. What I'll do eventually once I refactor is these will go into local variables, right? And then, you know. And in fact, this probably shouldn't be undefined. This should always be an array, and it should just be reset to length 0. But I don't wanna change more things right now. So I first want to get the functionality back in, then afterwards I can clean it all up. Okay. So the first step, I think, will be to determine erase mode. Now, erase mode depends very much on... yeah. Path to segs. Previous, next, RC. RC, path to segs. So path to segs... Path to segs should get us the... the midpoints. And then we're adding, we're subtracting 0.5. Yeah, but basically a pop that doesn't actually pop, right? And there are, you know, it's easy to polyfill it, you know. All right. So we need to get the midpoint, and then, so basically what we're now doing is we have either lines here or lines here, or lines here or lines here, right? The midpoints of these lines are always on the edges. So all the midpoints of these lines are on the edges. And this line belongs to this cell. This line belongs to this cell, this line belongs to this cell, and this line belongs to this cell. And if you look at those 4 lines, they all have these 2 midpoints. So if you go from the midpoint either to the left or up, you're always going to end up in the cell that's responsible for these lines, except for the top lines, right? Which we have to special case. And at any one point, erase mode, yeah, so because we're not actually generating actions yet. All we're doing here is we need the action numbers so we can look into the cell and figure out if the cell already has that element in it. So we decide if we're going to into erase mode, basically, right? And that happens before add to path happens, right? So if we're going 0.5, 0.5 to here, it rounds to here. If we go 0.5, 0.5 here, it rounds to here. So by subtracting 0.5 here, so if we do RC mid of RC1 and RC2, subtract 0.5, and do RC, and then the other stuff we don't need because we know what kind of types we have. We have all that information now. RC round, and then we can do a so we can do seg RC or let cell RC equal. And I need to start thinking about shutting down very soon. And that obviously will fail near the edges. But let's see if we're getting the right cells. So we're going across. Nope. Well, maybe. Because I'm trying to get rid of all of that code in both of those and those two functions, which contribute a lot of code. Okay. So these get us the cells. Let's reset. So for example, if I go from here to here, the cell is R1C1. If I go from here to here, the cell is R1C3. And if I go from here to here, the cell is also R1C1. And if I go from here to here, it's R1C10. Oh yeah, this is a 10 wide, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Okay, so we got the cell. Now we got to look into the cell. So if sec cell. In the meantime, let's draw this again. Prop contains prop get pen. Hey Mark, is that the syntax of prop get? I forget. Yeah, so right now all of these will be blank. Ah, wait, except here. R1C1. Ah, look at that. There's a 1 here. If I go here, there is a 1 and an 8 here. Okay. So now we have to match up all the things with the right types, etc., etc. Right. That's gonna be probably too much for today, but I'd just like to get a start so I'm not confused about what I was doing last time. So we're now going to look at is horizontal. So is horizontal, is center line, and that gets us a 4x4, and then we have to match up those with the individual values, which yesterday I think I partially documented somewhere. Yesterday? Was it only yesterday? It feels so long ago. Probably in the render function. So, horizontal line, center line. So horizontal, center line, and horizontal, 1. Right. Center line and not horizontal, so vertical, is 2. Forget these. Then we have not center line, i.e. edge line, and not horizontal is 7. 8 would be a horizontal edge line. And then 7 vertical line left. So we have edge lines here, left edge, or 7 or 9. 7 or, no, wait, that's not 7. Center is not center line, it's an edge line. Is horizontal, that's the bottom line, that's an 8, or A. Okay. So, pen. How am I gonna do this? not, and not. So that's 7/9. And not and true is 8 or A. 8 or A. Because recently we added a feature only for the left and top edge to also draw edge lines on the outer edge of the cell. And since 7 and 8 are edges, are lines here and here, the bottom and on right, and then 9 and A are top and left. But only the left and top cells actually ever need this. Other than that, it's basically normalized to be bottom and right cells. So, all right, the dog has entered the building. It's time for me to close the stream. So 1, false, false, false. False, 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 true. So that's that should be false, true, false, false, right? And then this is true, false, false, and this would be false, true, false. All right, so that will get us the right arrangement, and then tomorrow hopefully one more session, and then I can close this one because I need to get back to work on the editor. But actually what I'm going to do before that, hopefully tomorrow, is to finish the letter tool and release the current test version into production, because it's been accumulating changes for like, what, 2 months now, and I need to do a release. Yeah, and I'm by the way, I'm working on a like a experimental Mac release. So if any of you have Macs, I'm going to do a itch.io account for my patrons, so they can download certain things there. So I'm gonna do like previews there and like early release builds and stuff, because the Mac build needs a bit of work. But if you guys any of you have Macs and are on Patreon, you know, drop me a message and I'll send you the links and all that stuff. Patreon.com/SvenCoates. Other than that, thank you very much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Take care. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.